this rally. We are here to stop the killing right here in San Francisco. And I want to thank all of you who've joined us on our live stream throughout the entire country. I'm Christina Bennett from Live Action, and I am here to fight for the lives of the most vulnerable. We're here today to be their voice. We are here to stand up for them, and we are here to stop the killing. We chose this very location for a reason. Zuckerberg Hospital on the UCSF campus. This is where abortionists are trained. This is where they are taught to kill innocent babies. This is where we need to stop the killing. My mother scheduled to abort me. I was minutes away from death when a miracle happened. A hospital janitor, an elderly Black woman, saw my mother crying in a hospital robe. She approached her, looked her into the eyes, and said, "Do you want to have this baby?" And even though my mother had already paid for an abortion, she said yes. And this janitor looked her in the eyes and said, "God will give you the strength to have this baby." She told her to go put her clothes on and leave. My mother walked into the waiting room and the doctor called her name. When she went into the abortionist's office, he hadn't had the decency to clean up the blood from the last abortion. The blood of the last child he killed was on the floor. She was disgusted and she said, "I'm leaving." And he said, "You've already paid for this." That goes to show you where his mindset was, business and money. She said, "No, I've changed my mind. I want to keep my baby." And he said, "No, you're just nervous," patronizing her, trying to offer false compassion. "You'll get through this." Again, she said, "No, I want to keep my baby." At this point, he yelled at her and said, "Don't leave this room." Thank God she did not listen. She ran out of that room. She ran downstairs. She called my dad on the payphone and she told him that she didn't go through with it. And then years later, when I was in my 20s, she told me that story. And I decided I would fight for the most vulnerable for the rest of my life. And that is why I'm here today. And I want to open us up in prayer. Father God, I thank you for every person who is courageous and brave enough to be here today. I thank you for your mercy. In your words, you say you desire for us to love justice and to love mercy and to do justice. And that is what we are here to do today as we are fighting for the most vulnerable preborn children. I pray that you would empower us to speak truth, and I pray for hearts and minds to be changed across this country. And I pray for all of the doctors who are being trained up here at UCSF, that they would have a miracle encounter, that you would open their eyes and show them that abortion is murder and they do not have to kill, that they can do justice, that they can love righteousness, and they can get out of this industry and stand for life. I thank you, God, for every word that will be spoken here today, and I pray that it would pierce hearts and change minds. Amen. And now I would like to introduce the next speaker. She is featured in one of our upcoming videos, and she is just a powerful woman. Her testimony brought me to tears this morning. Please, this is Dr. Beverly MacMillan. Welcome her.
Thank you. I'm Dr. Beverly MacMillan. I'm a board-certified OBGYN physician, and I've performed over 500 abortions. My first encounter with abortion occurred during my medical training. I was a resident at the Mayo Clinic, and we had to spend 6 months at Cook County Hospital as part of that training. 6 weeks of that 6 months was on a ward called the infected OB ward. I didn't know what it was, but I showed up for work. I found out that that night and every night I was on call, I would be admitting 15 to 20 patients a night. These women were bleeding, they were cramping, some of them were running fever, and nobody would give me much of a history. By the end of that night, I finally realized these women were coming from the back alley abortion mills of Chicago. The year was 1969. This was 4 years before Roe. Well, that next day and every next day after my call schedule, I would take these women back one at a time to a little treatment room where, without any anesthesia at all, I would have to do a D&C and scrape out whatever infected tissue the abortionist had left in. At the end of that 6 weeks, I was distressed. I thought, if women are so upset about an unwanted, unplanned pregnancy that they're willing to go put their health and maybe even their life on the line going to a back alley abortionist, I was ready for orthodox medicine, if you would, to start offering safe abortions to these women. So in 1973, when the Supreme Court decision Roe v. Wade came down that legalized abortion for all 9 months for the entire pregnancy, I was surprised but overjoyed. I was practicing at that time in Kentucky. My partner and I went out and bought a suction machine, and we started offering first trimester abortions to our patients too. In 1974, a very, what I thought was a traumatic event happened in my life. My family moved to Mississippi. I was not very excited about this, but I had 3 little boys, all under the age of 5, and I didn't know how I was going to raise them by myself. So I moved to Jackson and opened my own private practice solo. That first year of practice in 1975, I encountered a group of concerned citizens and clergy who had banded together to bring abortion to Mississippi. There was not one freestanding abortion facility in the state in 1975. They had everything they needed to get started except a physician willing to do the abortions. I'm the new kid on the block, and they said, would you like to do this? And in short, I accepted their offer. This was a moonlighting job in addition to my practice. I resigned from that clinic 3 years later in 1978. The reason I resigned was a teaching moment. One of the employees at the abortion clinic asked me what I did when I would finish an abortion, come out of the room, and go over to a sink. I told her that I was checking to be sure that I had all the parts, that I had all the tissue removed. I would have to find 2 arms, 2 legs, a skull, spine, the whole thing. If I didn't, I would have to go back in and scrape some more. Otherwise, my patients would be showing up in 48, 72 hours with an infected, incomplete abortion, just like those poor women at Cook County. So I told the employee that when I had a pregnancy that was pretty far along, like 12 weeks, I'd call her over. That day I called her over and started showing her the parts. It was a little boy. You could tell that easily at 12 weeks. Laying off to one side was a little arm detached from the rest of the body. And at that moment, I looked and I saw this perfectly formed little biceps muscle. And I had a cha-ching moment. My memory went back immediately to my little 4-year-old youngest son, always trying to keep up with his older brothers. And he'd go around showing me, look at my muscle, look at my muscle. At that point, this terrible sense of sadness came over me. I thought 5 minutes ago this was a perfectly beautiful little baby boy, and now here it is. I couldn't perform abortions after that. So I resigned from the clinic after 3 years working there. I was not pro-life. I just couldn't do abortions anymore after seeing the obvious humanity in front of me. Two years later, in 1980, I did become involved in the pro-life movement. I've done a little bit of everything. I've done speaking, I've done rescues, I've done sidewalk counseling, I've delivered babies whose mothers had the courage to continue their pregnancy. And I was even part of the team that lobbied for the Dobbs case that is now before the Supreme Court, our 15-week abortion limit bill. And so as we come upon the potential of the reversal of Roe v. Wade, I'm committed more than ever to sharing the truth of the humanity of the unborn. These videos that we're getting ready to launch are a teaching tool. You know, even if Roe is reversed, we are not going to have the end of abortion. It's going to take one heart at a time, one convinced person at a time to change abortion. And that's what I think that these videos are going to be able to do. They will be able to very succinctly show the humanity of the unborn and change hearts. Now I would like to introduce our next speaker, Ms. Mallory Finch.
First, I want to say thank you so much, Dr. MacMillan, for sharing your story and being willing to speak the truth. It's so needed. My name is Mallory Finch. I am the creator of Those Are the Girls podcast and brand. And part of the reason why I started that is because I saw the absolute need for more education when it comes to issues like abortion. My podcast, we talk about fun, girly topics, but we also talk about topics that are serious that affect women. Growing up, I was pro-life. My mom was on the board of the local pregnancy resource center. Everyone I knew pretty much was pro-life. I honestly didn't think that people didn't believe that life began at conception. It just never crossed my mind that people thought that way. When I went to college is really where I met people with the exact opposite belief. I would have conversations with friends and they just were kind of spouting talking points. And honestly, I didn't really know why I believed what I believed. It was just, that's what everyone around me believes. That's what my mom and dad were telling me. That's what my school was telling me. So I actually had to go out and do research for myself. And that is something that I am a big advocate for. That is what the podcast talks about. That's what's so important about these videos, is going out and doing research for yourself and learning why you believe what you believe. Once I started doing research and I learned things like 95 to 96% of scientists agree that life begins at conception, I would say things like that to my friends and they were like, well, I don't know if that's true. Well, prove it. So I'd send them videos, send them articles, and still, because of all this different propaganda, sometimes they wouldn't believe. Another time I was having a conversation with one of my friends and she was saying how if she got pregnant, she would go, had the procedure, and then her and her boyfriend would go and get an Italian dinner to celebrate. And I just remember feeling so sick because the reality of the situation is, like Dr. MacMillan was saying, it's not just some sweet little procedure, it's not a root canal, it's something so much more intense. And I don't think people understand that. I don't think, especially young girls, millennial girls, Gen Z girls, college age girls, they don't understand the truth. That's why these videos, these posters, everyone here, everyone listening, going out and speaking the truth is so important. There's so much lack of education out there about these topics that people just repeat talking points that they see online. So I just really want to encourage everyone here, everyone watching, just anyone that hears this ever, to use your voice to speak up. You don't have to start a podcast, even though I highly recommend you do if you want to. And you don't have to be online, be an advocate, but you can have conversations with your friends. And when you do have these conversations with your friends, it's so important to speak the truth in love and in grace, because we have the truth on our side. We also have science, logic, philosophy, all these things are on our side. So if we can have these conversations with our friends, because that's how we're going to make abortion unthinkable. That's how these people will no longer want to have these procedures. People will understand the truth about what actually happens is when we speak the truth in love and grace. And sometimes it takes being bold. These conversations are very hard to have, especially if you're just, it starts off casual, you're out getting dinner or something like that, and then it turns to that. It's hard to have, but they're necessary because the truth must come out. And I just want to say that this, I want to promote these videos again. This is so good and so important. Hope everyone goes and finds it and just adds it to maybe a script in your phone on the notes pad. So whenever people have these conversations, you can copy and paste it over and send it to them, because it's just so important. And yeah, that's all I have to say. The next, I'd like to introduce the next speaker, Kristin Turner.
Hello, my name is Kristin Turner. I'm the Executive Director of Pro-Life San Francisco, and I'm the Communications Director for the Progressive Anti-Abortion Uprising. 2 months ago, I entered Zuckerberg San Francisco General Hospital, and I came face to face with abortionist Eleanor Dry. Myself and the 3 other brave activists who came along with me, some of whom who are here today, we didn't have a plan. But what we knew is that it was our job to tell the truth where lies and manipulation and death were the rule. When we went into UCSF, so many people asked us, why UCSF? And my answer to them is because of their unique position within our community and how they leverage that to manipulate us into thinking that the killing that they are committing is just and okay. Not only okay, but should be celebrated. UCSF is committed to performing some of the most gruesome procedures. UCSF has over 100 abortion training programs in the United States and has trained nearly 3,000 active abortionists. They have also been under heavy scrutiny for the potential that they are violating federal law. My research team at Pro-Life San Francisco has been doing public records requests through UCSF for years now because of the procedures they do. They perform second trimester induction abortions without digoxin, hoping that the trauma of birth is enough to kill these children, when the statistics published in the National Library of Medicine show that these procedures have a 50.6% chance of live birth. That is over half the children in these types of procedure being born alive. And does UCSF have any protocol to ensure that these children are afforded the same rights as you and me? No. And they told us that through a public records request that they do not have protocols for what happens during a live birth. Because of these egregious practices, Pro-Life San Francisco partnered with writers at Live Action who exposed the truth and who showed the public. And what happened? UCSF told us they've never had a live birth. That is a statistical anomaly. They are lying right to our faces. They are lying to the community, and they are trying to justify what will be seen as some of the most disgusting human rights violation when our society wakes up. Now is the time to stand up. The unborn need you to conquer your fears. They need you to take direct action to preserve their life. And I truly believe that these groundbreaking videos are going to be an important tool in showing society just how wrong and just how unjust this is. This is not an inherently political or religious view. I am an atheist, I am a progressive, and I oppose the dismemberment and poisoning and killing of these children. That has nothing to do with politics or religion. That has to do with human rights. Now is the time to stand up. UCSF, we know what you do, and we will end it. I'd like to introduce our next amazing speaker, Jonathan Keller.
Well, no pressure. Thanks, Kristin. My name is Jonathan Keller. I'm the president of California Family Council. We are a state-based public policy organization that focuses on advancing life, family, and liberty through California's church, capital, and culture. And I'm so privileged to be here with so many dear friends today. Live Action is a phenomenal organization, and it's an honor to stand alongside so many dedicated activists and friends. I wanted to briefly talk about things from a public policy perspective, because California, you guys might know, is the largest state in the nation. And as our illustrious governor, who cut his teeth as a mayor right here in this fine region, likes to say, we are a nation state. He likes to continually compare us not just to the United States as a whole, but to other countries around the world. So in the state of California, the quote unquote nation state of California, we have approximately 39 million people. We have amazing coastlines, we have beautiful beaches, we have stunning mountains and gorgeous national parks. But I think that any of us would agree, and even many of our friends on the other side of this issue would agree, that children are our greatest natural resource. In the state of California, in the most recent year we have statistics, there were over 420,000 live births. But tragically, also in the most recent year that we have statistics, there were 132,680 abortions within the state of California. Now that's tragic enough as it is. Every one of those children deserved a chance at life. Every single one of those children deserved to be welcomed both by the law and by a loving family. And yet, that tragedy is not enough for the political leaders in Sacramento. Last year, Governor Newsom assembled a group of 40 different state and national organizations for something that he called the Future of Abortion Council. I want to point out that they're not even masking what this is really about anymore. They're not calling it the League for Women's Reproductive Justice. They're not calling it Frontiers for Family Support. It is literally called the Future of Abortion Council. And this organization put together and published on, where else? Planned Parenthood's website, a 15-page document with 45 specific policy recommendations. Those recommendations, published and released last December, have now been adopted in large part, and they influence 12 different pro-abortion bills that are currently making their way through the legislature. Many of them include expanding abortion even further than we already have here in the state of California. They include things like scholarships or loan forgiveness, not for people who go into medicine to deliver children, but for those who go into medicine to take the lives of unborn children. They are recruiting, instead of Teach for America, it is Abort for America. There are multiple other bills that are passing right now where they are trying to remove, already Governor Newsom has signed a bill that removes all deductibles and copays, not for pregnancy, not for labor and delivery, but for abortion. Every single insurance plan in the state of California now must cover for free, with no out-of-pocket cost, any abortion up to any point in pregnancy. The thing that is most tragic to me about all of this is that they are not content merely to increase abortions here in the state of California. But as we've seen, several people have already mentioned the issue of the Dobbs case. If abortion is, if Roe v. Wade is overturned and it is sent back to the states, the Future of Abortion Council estimates that the number of abortions performed within the boundaries of our state would increase, not from 132,000, they wouldn't double, but they are estimating that it could go up to as much as 1.4 million annually. That is a 10x increase, a 1,000% increase over the current abortion rate in the state. And where will those abortions come from? From around the country. California, some of you might have seen in the news, we have the largest budget surplus in American history for any state in the history of our country, $98 billion with a B. That's equal to $2,400 for every man, woman, and child in the state of California. But we're not spending that on increasing health outcomes for underserved communities. We're not spending the money on meeting needs for families that are having trouble raising the children they have. Instead, Governor Newsom wants to spend that unprecedented budget surplus to recruit women from across the country, to fly them to San Francisco, Los Angeles, and other places around the state, and pay for not only their airfare, not only their abortions, not only their hotel rooms, but in the most chilling and disturbing phrase, this is in the bill, SB 1142, they promise that they will pay for your child care while you are here getting an abortion. The state of California, Gavin Newsom and Planned Parenthood want to watch your 2-year-old in one room while they are killing their sibling in the room next door. That is what California politicians think their voters want. But I think if more people see these incredible videos that Live Action has done, if they hear the incredible stories of Dr. MacMillan and Dr. Altman, who's about to speak after me, they would realize that we deserve better. California deserves better. Our nation deserves better. We should be a golden state, a shining state and beacon on the hill. And instead of killing the citizens across our nation, we should be loving and supporting them from conception to natural death. Please welcome up now Dr. Kathy Altman. Thank you.
Thank you, Jonathan. I'm Dr. Kathy Altman. I'm a retired board-certified OBGYN, and I've done over 500 abortions. I became pregnant shortly before entering medical school by my future husband, and decided that I needed to have an abortion because I was afraid that I wouldn't be able to become a doctor. I was afraid of what my family and friends might think. And I was afraid that if we had to get married, our marriage would end in divorce. I later found out that none of these reasons were valid. I met women who had their children first and then went to medical school. Our marriage ended in divorce anyway, and I realized that my family and the people that really mattered would have supported me. When I, prior to entering my residency program, I believed that abortion on demand was a woman's right, the right to choose. Excuse me. In my residency training program, I learned to do first trimester abortions by DNC with suction, and I sought additional training to do dismemberment abortions. At that time, I didn't see a human fetus as any different than a chick embryo that I dissected in college. Once I got my medical license, I started moonlighting at an abortion clinic. I felt like I was helping women, and I was also making a lot of money. I never had any qualms about doing abortions until I was in my neonatal rotation, and I realized that some of the babies that I was trying to save in the NICU were the same age as some babies I had aborted. I became pregnant while I was a resident and continued to do abortions all the way to term. I felt like my baby was wanted and theirs was not, so I didn't see any problem. After I had my baby, though, and I went back to the clinic to do abortions, I realized that I could no longer kill babies just because they weren't wanted. I could no longer do abortions. I had made that baby fetus connection. The problem is I still believed in abortion, and I still referred for abortion even after becoming a Christian several years later. My views began to change as in my private practice, I saw young women who had unexpected pregnancies do really well after keeping their pregnancies. On the other hand, I was seeing women who were dealing with the complications, the psychological and physical complications of abortion. Excuse me. I didn't completely change my opinion until a friend asked me to read an article that compared abortion to the Holocaust. I never understood how the Germans could do what they did until I looked back at my own actions, and then I understood how they could so coolly exterminate so many people and how the physicians could do such atrocious experiments. I realized that just as I didn't see the fetus as a human being, they didn't see their victims as human. I suddenly saw myself as a mass murderer. Thankfully, God surrounded me with loving friends who helped me get the counseling and support that I needed. I told God I would do anything He wanted me to do, and a week later, I got an email asking for volunteers to go to Washington to testify in partial birth abortion ban. I responded, and that didn't work out, but I ended up testifying throughout the country. In 2014, I had to retire because of medical reasons, and after I recovered, I prayed that God would still use me to do something important. A week later, I was asked to testify before Congress at a Senate hearing on the heartbeat bill. Last year, Live Action asked me to help with the filming of a new series of abortion procedure videos. People change their opinions when they see the truth. We saw this with Dr. Levitino's videos and also with focus groups of women, pro-choice women who watch these videos. 46% of them saw abortion more negatively after viewing the videos, and 19% felt that abortion should never be legal. The animation clearly depicts what exactly happens during an abortion as female ex-abortionists explain what is happening. Each procedure is described in detail. It makes it clear that abortion isn't just terminating a pregnancy, getting rid of a blob of tissue, but that an innocent human being is being destroyed. This issue is not about women's rights. It's about human rights, the right to live. Women do not need abortion to be successful in the workplace. I pray that you will ask God how you can help end abortion, how you can help support women so they don't feel pressured into having an abortion. And I pray that you'll step through the doors that He opens. I'd like to introduce our next speaker, founder and president of Live Action, Lila Rose.
Behind the glass and steel of the building behind us, there are doctors who are saving the lives of patients, and there are abortionists who are dismembering viable children in excruciating second trimester abortions. Their body parts then experimented on in grotesque experiments. We are here because every single one of those children deserved to live. Every single child killed by an abortion deserved to be loved and welcomed and protected instead of enduring the forceps of an abortionist. California, we will not stop fighting until we have ended abortion in this beautiful state. My name is Lila Rose. I am the president and founder of Live Action. Thank you all for being here. Thank you all to these amazing speakers, these amazing stories and experts and testimonies. I was born and raised in the Bay Area. This is my home. I spent most of my life here. I'm now raising my 2 young sons here. And it is the most devastating realization to remember that as we go about our day, as we live our lives, as we raise our children, there are centers set up to kill children. That at our own hospitals, in one ward, we are saving children in NICU, born just at 25, 26 weeks. And in the other side of the hospital, that same child at that same age is being dismembered, limb from torso, in excruciating abortions. This is what we have permitted. This is the result of Roe v. Wade. This is the result of abortion on demand. And this is what we are here to stop. Roe v. Wade's days are numbered. Roe v. Wade will fall. But then the fight has just begun. The fight has just begun because in states like California, the abortion lobby is powerful. A multi-billion abortion lobby led by Planned Parenthood, the biggest abortion chain. Just miles from my childhood home, there was an abortion Planned Parenthood clinic open for business, killing children up through 6 months of pregnancy. This is what we are fighting. But here's the truth. When people learn the truth, they change. When people learn the facts of human development in the womb, when they learn the facts of the brutality of the abortion procedure, they change. I've been privileged to watch these changes now for years and to work in this movement now for years on the streets in some of the darkest corners of our country where abortion is strongest. And I've seen people change from pro-choice to pro-life simply because they learn, simply because the lies are confronted with the truth. Listen, our systems are set up for destruction right now. The lie is powerful right now in media complexes, in big corporations, in big tech, even at our own hospitals. But the truth is more powerful than any lie. And when we show the beauty of that child in the womb, heart beating at just 3.5 weeks after fertilization, when we learn the statistics about the atrocities taking place, 2,363 children killed every day in America. 2,363 children killed every day, the leading death toll in our country. And when we learn the brutality of the abortion procedure, people change. Live Action is now announcing a dramatic new video series, medically accurate animations, narrated and worked on with former abortionists, 4 different experts of abortion who have come forward bravely, who have left their abortion practices behind. And I thank you so much, Dr. MacMillan and Dr. Altman, who are representing here the amazing stories and expertise of former abortionists who have laid down their tools and now advocate for life. These videos, these medically animated videos, they depict what happens during abortion procedures, the 4 most prevalent abortion procedures in the country. When these videos are launched, they will change the narrative on abortion for everybody that sees them. The pro-choice women that we surveyed, and Live Action has surveyed hundreds upon hundreds who watch these videos before they're released. They have not been released yet. And these are pro-choice women who watch them. Of the pro-choice women who watch these videos, nearly 50% said that they viewed abortion more negatively. And 19%, almost 1/5 of all pro-choice women who watched these videos said that they now wanted abortion to be totally illegal. Totally illegal. Minds and hearts do change when the truth is offered. That's all it needs. And why is that? Why is that? It's because we weren't made to want to kill one another. As a women, we weren't made to want to kill, to destroy. We were made to fiercely fight to protect. That's our power as women, to fight to protect. We have the capability to bring life in the world. And that is an incredible superpower that we've been given. And we have the power to protect and to be fierce in our protection of those that are most vulnerable. That is authentic feminism, a feminism that demands true equality under the law for all people, born and preborn. No matter your age, no matter your disability, no matter your sex, no matter your socioeconomic status, everyone deserves protection under the law. And everyone deserves to be welcomed by our society, to be embraced by our society. That's the society we're fighting for. At the end of the day, our movement is fiercely and unapologetically anti-abortion, anti-violence, anti the destruction of innocent lives. but we are also fiercely and unapologetically pro-love, pro a culture of love, a culture of life that welcomes the most vulnerable, that sees the child as our greatest gift, not our greatest threat, and that is willing to fight for that child no matter what. And that's our commitment as a movement. Our commitment is fight to end the killing and to fight to make California and to make America friendlier for families, friendlier for women, friendlier for mothers, friendlier for children. That's what we are fighting for. Thank you all so much. I'm going to ask Christina to come up and close us in a prayer. Thank you, God, for every brave, courageous person who spoke today, and for everyone watching, and for everyone that has come to stand with us, including beautiful babies that I see. We're grateful for all of them. And God, we just thank you for these abortion procedure videos. And we thank you that they are going forth today with a bang, God. And they are going to change the world. They are going to open eyes, open hearts, transform minds, and they are going to save lives. And we thank you in advance for every single preborn child that will be saved as a result of these powerful testimonies from these former abortionists. Bless them for their braveness and their courage. And thank you, God, for allowing us to live in this culture of death, allowing us to live and allowing us to stand for the lives of others. Amen.